don't know how many of you had a chance to participate in the webinar that CNPA produced yesterday with my colleagues from Europe, Canada, and the US offices. But they gave a very detailed overview of what Trade Commissioner Service is for and what we can do for you. So I will not be going into those mantras again. If any of you is lacking that information, feel free to reach out to me later on, and I'll spread the knowledge. Instead, I just wanted to give you that glimpse over the map of Europe with our location. So here we are. Poland has the sixth largest population in Europe, with over 38 million consumers, so to say. And that, for statistics of international box office, places us on the 17th spot. Yesterday at the webinar, my colleagues also spoke. One of the themes were the status of the industry, film industry events in their respective countries. So I'm very happy to say that we had, over the last 8 days, we had the 60th edition of Kraków Film Festival. This was the first event that was in Poland that was taken online fully, and with like a mind-blowing attendance of 30,000 audience over 8 days. And that the reason why I'm mentioning that in particular is that in the international shorts competition, Silver Dragon went to the Canadian directors for shorts Chubby. So congratulations here. And right now, without further ado, I would like to give a microphone on the screen to our first presenter, Katarzyna Gromadzka, who is the executive producer at the Momakin company, but also the co-owner, co-founder, and the board member. She is also a co-organizer of the Animarkt Stop Motion Forum. Katarzyna is based, Momakin, her company, is based out of Łódź, which you may have heard of. This is the UNESCO city of film, and also the home for the oldest Polish film school. So Kasia, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you. It's really nice to see so many people with us, some friendly faces. Dominic just popped out. Hello. And so I'll be happy to tell you a little bit about Polish market, about what's going on here, about opportunities to cooperate, and also about some companies that will be attending Annecy. So maybe to give you some push to have a meeting with them, because I'm sure they would love to meet you. I will start my presentation. I just have to share it with you so you can all see it. It's loading. And I will start with a short showreel of Polish Association of Producers of Animation, and to give you the overall view of what we do in Poland, and that is a very wide presentation because there is a few dozens of producers in the association, so you will see a variety of different techniques, of different styles. If there's something wrong with the view, I hope I will hear from you, because I just in case I have it also online, so I'll also in the chat, I will later post the link if any of you will have trouble viewing the video that I will share now. No, I think it's already. Okay. For some reason, I cannot share it. And I don't know if you see it.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the problem, because I'm being thrown out of here in some way.
Maybe let's try to move on with the presentation, and we'll go back to it
Yes, but now
later on.
now I'm completely thrown out of sharing anything. So it's like if you actually kind of stopped my possibility to present anything. Yeah, to share things, because it's not the issue with the video, it's the issue that I cannot share the presentation right now. So I'll try to reload it again. So
we can take your time. In the meantime, we can take your time with the presentation of another speaker on the very general spectrum of Polish market, and what actually the Polish Producers Alliance is engaged in as far as the response to pandemic. We have, if that is fine with you, Kasia. And in the meantime, we'll try to resolve the situation with sharing the presentation.
Try that. I'll give it one quick try, and if that doesn't work, I think let's do that. So, because I only got the information that I can try to gain back the control over the presentation, and then it disappeared. So let's try again. In the meantime, in the chat section, I'm posting a link to the video so that everyone can watch it later. So, yeah, that is not loading really, so maybe we should. Okay, now, how about now? Can anyone see anything?
No, it's loading.
Nope.
Nope. We let's have Maciej do the share, and there it is.
Yes.
Start.
Yes. Okay. It should be with the eyes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's still loading. Yes, it is. Awesome.
Okay. So should I try?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I hope it will not break anymore and we'll be able to see it without any problems. Okay, so after the presentation of the companies that I hope you'll have an opportunity to see later, here is a little list of institutions that can help with cooperation in Poland, except from the association itself. It's also, of course, it's KIPA. But also some local commissions. We have 12 of those. We also have a Film Commission Poland, which is a general institution gathering them. It's combined with Polish Film Institute, and Polish Film Institute is the main founding institution of Poland. So these are the basic institutions that you can also search some support with when looking for partners or regulations on particular funding methods. And I'll start with financing, because that's probably something that producers are very interested in. So we have 4 main sources of funding. As you can see, televisions are not here, the broadcasters. It's because the broadcasters in Poland are not, unfortunately, really investing in the development of the content. They're buying it, but once it's ready. So you have 12 funds, regional funds. If it's about animation, there are a few that are supporting also animation. I'll talk a little bit about Łódź Film Fund later. That is the main founder of animated projects in Poland, except of course from Polish Film Institute. Like I said, it's the main source. The Polish Film Institute is also the operator of the tax rebate that was introduced in 2019. It's pretty high because it's 30%. And of course, as a European Union country, we do have access to Creative Europe media funds. That
Motion w ogóle u siebie, zobacz na listę.
I think you've muted your microphone by accident.
Hello? I did not, because I didn't touch the screen. So but yes, it was muted. So someone is muting me from time to time. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so which film fund is that is located in our city, in Momakin city. That's one of the 12 funds, but it's the one that actually yearly supports at least 3 animation projects, sometimes more. But in general, it always have an allocation for animated projects, which is also like we've heard already is a UNESCO City of Film. And the basic rules are that you, of course, have to spend more than what you get from the fund in the region. That's very classic for regional funds. In this case, it's 150% of the spend in the region. That has to include some involvement, of course, of people working here, but also facilities, service providers, any other costs, anyone that pays taxes here, in which can be a cost in this situation, and of course it's the part of production team. Funding needs to be spent the same year that you get the funding. So if you apply for the funding in 2020, you get the agreement in 2020, and you have to spend it in 2020, usually until November, so that the fund has time to do the final reporting. And the application is once a year. Usually it's December of the previous year. So to get the funding for 2020, you would have to apply in December 2019. Now in December 2020, we will have access to the funds in 2021. The Polish Film Institute is the main source of funding because the local funds have very small allocation. It's usually the smaller amount of money, but easier access to them. There is less different rules and regulations and limitations. If it's spent there and it's a good project, you get the chance to have it. With Polish Film Institute, the money that you can access are significantly higher, but also the regulations are more maybe strict. And Polish Film Institute supports different projects on different levels, starting from development, because regional funds only support production and post-production. Polish Film Institute supports development only of projects that are considered Polish. So that means that it's on majority co-productions or minority co-productions only if they have Polish director. I will explain this idea of Polish film in the next slide. And it's for animated features and series, and also you can get funding for medium-length films now. Also for production and post-production, of course, there are some limitations that you have to apply before the principal photography or the animation starts. So if the animation is too far off, then you might have to ask for a special permission to apply later. There are 3 types of co-production with Poland in Polish Film Institute regulations. That's a majority co-production, so films that are basically Polish in the way they are funded, because the Polish funding share is 50% or more. Then there's a minority co-production with Polish director that is considered as Polish film. So even though the Polish producer doesn't have this 50%, if the director is Polish, even Canadian company can apply to any types of funding in Poland. So this is important, that having Polish director or co-director can give you access to wider funding. Then minority with foreign director, and then there are restrictions for minority co-production. You have to have at least 10% of Polish share with bilateral co-production, and with multilateral co-production it has to be a minimum of 5% of Polish share. These are small numbers. Before they were higher, usually around 20%. If it's about animation, only animated features apply. In general, the minority co-production funds are for feature projects. in Poland. And then the minimum of 80% of the funding given by Polish Film Institute has to be spent in Poland. So that means that there's 20% that can be spent from the money of Polish Film Institute to the costs that are abroad and to the artists that are not Polish citizens or residents. Both the majority co-production and the minority co-productions with Polish directors, like I said, can gain access to all the funds. But the limit of 80% spent in Poland is still the same. So that's for any type of co-production. If it's about artistic contribution, there are also some regulations. So it's not just enough to have money from Poland. You have to have also some major artistic contribution. It should be proportional to the financial share, but there are some minimums to be considered, and that is animation director. In terms of animation, they're different from the documentary, for feature, and for animation. For animation, that's an animation director, storyboard artist, production designer, character designer. There's a percentage of animation that should be made in Poland, but if you use Polish animators, that can be considered as animation being done in Poland. So if you use Polish animators that work in Canada and you bring them there, you can also consider that being Polish animation, like animation made in Poland. And there can be also other involvement. For example, if you, like Momakin is specializing in stop motion, if you also specialize in stop motion and you have a DOP on board as Polish contribution, that will be also accepted, because of course it's not listed on any animation, because not in all types of animation you have a separate DOP. So if you do, then that's an eligible cost too, and eligible contribution. The tax rebate is a new thing in Poland. It's been introduced pretty lately. It's since 2019. The regulations are, we still try to make them easier and easier to access. So that's something that we are still negotiating with Polish Film Institute all the time to make it more, to make it work better. But for now, I think the regulations are pretty acceptable. That's an automatic funding of 30% refund, and the eligible projects for animation are features and series. There are time limits, so the feature has to be a minimum of 60 minutes and the series has to be a total of 50 minutes, and there has to be at least 50 episodes. So if you're making a series that is, for example, 8 episodes, very long ones, it's still not considered to be enough. So that's one of the limitations that we are also debating. The minimum spend in co-production, so if you're also using other sources of funding in Poland, and the tax rebate is just one of them, then you have to spend in Poland a total of around 1 million, a total of 1 million Polish zloty, which in euros is now it's even less, because the euro is higher right now, but with the regular situation, it's around 225,000 euro. I don't really know the currency rate of Canadian dollar right now, but I hope that you can maybe relate to the euro. If you want to know in American dollars, then it's around 250,000 US dollars. If it's easier than euro, I don't know which one is more known, the currency rate for you. So the minimum spend in services, so if you're only using the cash rebate and you just want to hire a company in Poland that will do services for you, it will not enter into an official co-production, it will not bring its own money, it will not bring other sources of funding. You just want to use the company and then also have a chance to use the tax rebate. It's also possible, and then the spending is lower. It's half of the amount, so it's around 500,000 Polish zloty, which is around 115,000 euros. We are now trying to lower those spends so that smaller projects can be supported by tax rebates during the COVID-19 situation, because that would allow us to bring shorter projects in to just fill the gap that was created by the lockdown, because we are slowly out of the lockdown right now, but we've been under lockdown for around 2 months now, or maybe longer, not even sure now. The tax rebate is an automatic system, but it requires the certification of beneficiary. That means that it's checking if the project is has enough of Polish involvement in terms of not only the cast crew, the technical crew, etc., and the minimum spend, but also the setting of the story and the relation to Polish and European heritage. So that's also something that is maybe interesting to see if the project fits before applying to the tax rebate. During the changes now made to support the industry, there have been changes both in operational programs of Polish Film Institute and the tax rebate, the cash rebate regulations. Most of them were to support more the development of the projects. So the development of both script and the visual side, the full development part. It's easier to access the difficult film status, which means that producers have wider access to public funding, and they can accumulate public funds from both Poland and abroad while working on co-production, because in Poland, usually the allowance for public funds in the film is 50% for normal film. Let's say normal, like regular film. But if you get a status of difficult film, then the public funds can be up to 90%. So that means that you can be almost fully, the film project can be almost fully be supported by public funds. Usually this is a restricted area for films that are highly artistic or are film debuts. These are considered difficult films in normal times. But well, today's situation is difficult for everyone, so Polish Film Institute kind of gave us access to be a difficult production on a more on a wider way. So so this is a change too. And with cash rebate, it's more flexible deadlines, so you can apply way earlier, even if you are not sure if the project will be running within a month or two, because you don't know how the production can start. You can already apply for the cash rebate. You can prepare yourself for future production with that. Normally, it's very short time between production and application, and now it's been broadened to even 12 months. We are also fighting for lowering those spends, like I mentioned. So the list of countries that we have a bilateral co-production treaties with, because I think with the co-production it's sometimes important to know that, because there are separate regulations for those, are as listed. So it's New Zealand, India, France, Israel and Canada. This is also why I'm mentioning it, because any country that we have a treaty with, we can combine with the treaty that we have with Canada and work on special regulations in this way. We have better support of our co-production. The main provisions of this agreement between Poland and Canada is that to be considered a co-production that is Polish-Canadian under the treaty, the production has to have at least 20% of both countries, like at least 20% on the side of Poland, for example, and 80 on Canada, or the opposite, or the 40-60, etc. But in general, it has to be at least a 20-80 co-production share. The contribution has to be also similar. I mean, it has to be proportional to the level of the share, and all the main cast and crew and artists that are included in the project has to be Polish and Canadian citizens or permanent residents, and that also considers the work being done, the laboratory, the studios, etc. So if you have a project that is fully Polish Canadian, and or the project between Polish Canada and another country that either Poland or Canada has this kind of co-production, then you can apply for the status of the Polish Canadian co-production and have better access to, again, all the funds, and be treated as Polish film in Poland and Canadian film in Canada, like fully Canadian and fully Poland. It's been signed in 1996. There hasn't been many co-productions under this treaty. I think it's pretty common to have those bilateral treaties and not to use them, but I encourage you to take a look on it, especially as the ministry, I think, would accept if we did some corrections on the treaty that we believe are not updating the situation or anything. So if you read it, I will also maybe send a link later in the chat section, and have any points that we could add or argue with the ministries and make an update of the treaty and make it easier even for us to co-produce. I encourage you to do that. But I think it's very interesting to see there are very few countries that we have this kind of co-production agreement. So I encourage you to check it out and maybe think about Poland as a place to co-produce with in a special way due to the treaty, and in an easier maybe way due to the treaty. I think it's something that is worth considering. I know there's a strong focus on support of female projects in Canada right now, and that there are a lot of projects inviting female directors too. So I wanted to tell you about some very special situation in Polish animation. In Poland, animation is a woman. In two ways, I have to say, because the word animation is animacja in Polish, and in Poland it's a female nun, because we do have those. We have female, male and neutral nuns. So animation is a female word to us. We hear it as a woman, and we do have a huge majority of women both directing and producing animation. So as you can see at some numbers, since I started watching it, like noticing it really, since 2016, because there has been a huge discussion in Poland about the situation of women in film industry. And that was caused by the fact that in 2016, on our major film festival, Polish Feature Film Festival, in Gdynia, there was not a single nomination for women director, even though there has been some films that were popular and that were awarded abroad from female directors in Poland. And at the very same year, at Animator, the International Animation Film Festival in Polish Poznań, almost all the awards, I think except one or two, were for Polish projects of female directors. So that was a huge disproportion between those two markets, the market of the feature film and the market of the animation world. So when we look at, for example, Polish nominations at Annecy and how it looks in the way that Polish projects are noticed abroad, so Annecy, I think, is this kind of very good point to check it out. We always have the majority of female directed films in competition. In 2017, it was 5 out of 8. In 2018, that is 6 out of 7. So only one was directed by men. And in 2019, 5 out of 8. This year, it's 4 out of 6. There are some names and there are some titles for you to check out maybe later online. Most of them you have trailers available. They are very, very, there's a huge variety of them. There's not a single look or simple style. They are different techniques, very different projects. And at this point, we started also noticing that it's not only worth to include women directors in different awards and just in directing, but also, of course, it's very important to include female directors, producers, and artists in film industry in decisive moments and decisive bodies. That means that we need to decide also as experts in Polish Film Institute, because they have an expert system. That is when the parity in the experts commissions were negotiated with Polish Film Institute. And in Polish Film Institute right now, if you look at the list of experts that are choosing projects for funding, you will always have women in every commission, and at least half of the commissions will have female leaders. So that's also a very difficult fight that we made through, and it's working very well in the variety of film. It's actually growing thanks to that. So I think it's also worth mentioning that's also the way to control, in the way, the variety of the market and the parity of the market. I've been asked also to include virtual reality in this presentation. I don't know about Canada. What I do know is that Ottawa, for example, is presenting some virtual reality on their market. When I've been there a few years ago, I've seen quite a few. So I know you do have some very interesting virtual reality market. In Poland, it first started gaining interest rather in gaming industry, that is really big in Poland, in marketing and advertising. In real estate, it's huge in real estate, medicine, but also tourism or even motorization. But for a very long time, it was very separated from a film industry, really. But since 2019, Polish Film Institute introduced the new operational program of innovative film forms, innovative films production. And that is a very interesting operational program and the possibility to fund films that introduce virtual reality solutions, because you can use it as an additional fund, which means, for example, if you have a feature film that has elements of virtual reality in it, or is fully shot as a virtual reality experience, then, or a short made this way, you can apply for a short or a feature, so for your type of film as a film, but you can also additionally apply for money of innovative film production. So you can combine those two sources of funding that are different programs, but they can be considered funding for the same projects. I think it's a very interesting solution because it kind of gives you extra money just for the technology, just to grow in the new way of storytelling and the new form of presentation, not just, you don't have to spend those money from the budget that you have to create the story, the visuals, and all that. So it's a new way of funding, at least for us. In Łódź Film School, so again, Łódź is popping out, but it's a film city, so it will keep continuing popping out. So Łódź Film School introduced also lately the laboratory of visual narrations that was opened also to support projects that are virtual reality. So it's not only the research laboratory, it does some research, it does research mostly on the audience of new technologies, but it also produces the new audiovisual works with experimental elements, and it has a project of mini grants. So you can bring the project for the competition. If the project wins, it can be funded by this mini grant. So it's not huge money, it's not big project, but still it's some new way to develop this kind of projects. And also film festivals started to be interested in presenting virtual reality projects and technologies. Camera Image is one of the first ones that started doing it as part of the presentation of different technologies. Camera Image is the festival of cinematographers. So they are showing mostly DOP's work. They have an award for DOP, but they also have always a big market around with new technologies, with, of course, a lot of camera technologies, but also virtual reality and some presentations of new projects on those stands. But Synergia, also the European Cinema Festival, did some full project of showing, both presenting and discussion panel about VR. Same with Animator Festival that I've already mentioned. It's the major animation festival in Poland. Also, of course, gaming events and some dedicated conferences were created. And I want to stress here the very interesting conference of immersed storytelling by Warsaw Art School that was co-organized by the Polish Academy of Science, actually, and their Institute of Psychology. So this is a very interesting way of looking at virtual reality too. And there is a Polish-Canadian, very important, I think, point to make here. It's a company of Polish and Canadian directors, artists. It's Maciek Szczerbowski and Chris Lewis, who created Clive Henry Productions, and they are now doing stop-motion VR. So one of the projects that they came up with, and that I've actually seen their first VR project in Canada, and the second one was presented in Annecy last year. The Gymnasia project was presented last year at the VR stand of Annecy. This is the one that was created together between, it's a Polish-Canadian co-production actually, with the Institute of Adam Mickiewicz and NFB, and the project of the Cantor's Foundation. Cantor was an artist from Poland who created a very famous art pieces that were like installations rather. Sculptures too, but his installations were very famous too. And one of them was Dead Class, and that was the inspiration for this Polish-Canadian project Gymnasia. So I encourage you to see it whenever you have a chance, because then you can see what can happen when Polish and Canada cooperate. There is a variety of animation events in Poland. I've mentioned already a few, both in terms of animation and in the context of VR, because some of them already have some kind of smaller VR sections right now. That includes Animator. Animator is the festival that also have a conference with it that's called Animator Pro. So it also invites producers and it invites artists to give some panel discussions and conferences, not just audience Q&A, but also more professional meetings. And they are every year in July, but of course a lot has changed this year. So in the situation of Animator, they moved to October dates, and now they are actually very close to our Animark, that is also October, but as we cooperate, we hope you can come to both and maybe go one by one. So that's I think very interesting option. Of course, when they allow us to fly. Then it's Etuda and Anima, Film and Art School Artistic Animation Festival. They also have an academic conference on the education of film and animation. That happens in November, and they are hoping to run it on stage. Normally on site, not online, so fingers crossed for that. And Animocja, which moved to virtual Animocja, that's another festival in Poland that is focused on artistic animation. Krakow Film Festival was just right now happening a few days ago. It was a 60th edition, and they moved it fully online. And as you've just heard, it was a big success. So that's hope for us if we will have to move online too. Żubrówka, it's a very interesting international short film festival that also shows animation, and they have a very open mind for animation, and they are happening yearly in December. And of course, Animark Stop Motion Forum. I'm saying of course because we are organizing it as Momakin. So I'd like to give you the exact dates of this event. It will be held from 6th to 10th of October. And well, we hope we will have some kind of Canadian elements during this edition. Fingers crossed for that. Maybe we'll be able to bring some of you here. If not, maybe do some online or hybrid meetings. I really do hope for that. So I will keep you posted if we do. That's to keep in touch with us and this one. But until October, we have Annecy coming up. So I'd like to introduce you to some of the companies that will be there. And just a few words so we can see the variety of companies. You weren't able to see the video, but I have some short presentations of that. And I think later I can also send to Mrs. Karolina the catalog of the association. So anyone who would be interested to read a little bit more in detail about each company, that I think will be available to get. And also we have the website of sppa.eu that all the companies are introduced also there if you would like to check them and meet them in Annecy, of course. So I'll put it alphabetically, basically, or more or less alphabetically. Starting with Animoon Studio. That's a studio that has probably the biggest experience in co-production. They are doing a lot of, like, majority of their projects is animation. They're co-producing with countries from foreign countries from China to Finland, and it's a company that is very open for co-productions for different techniques. They are doing 2D work, but also did some projects in stop motion. They also did a project on found footage in a way. They recreated or created a feature film based on a very famous in Poland and Finland series, the Momakin series, and edited it into a feature film. So that's a very innovative company that is working with different variety of techniques and different partners. Buddy Buddy is mostly a 3D studio, and they are doing, their biggest hit is Agi Bagi. That is one of the best selling Polish TV series worldwide. They have very wide distribution abroad. It's a kind of ecological series, I think you can say that, because it's saying about the balance in the world in a very funny and approachable for children way. This project that you can see right now in the presentation is their new project, so they are looking for sales on this one, but they also have some projects that are looking for co-productions and partnerships. So I'm sure there's a lot to talk with them about. Ecofilm is a company that is focusing on pretty ambitious projects for young audience. They are doing mostly 2D, but not only. And their projects are usually adaptations of some book stories and book series. There's a lot of very good quality projects with them in terms of what information they want to give to children. Like, there's always a big message behind that. That's GS Animation, so GS Animation or Grupa Smacznego, and that's the full name. Because it's unpronounceable abroad, they shorten it to GS, actually. They are both producing and co-producing different TV series, and one of them is Mami Fatale. that's been also pretty widely distributed abroad. And one is also Basha. You can see the frame from it on the lower right corner. That's a project that is probably the most popular cinema hit in Poland right now for children. Well, not right now, because of course cinemas are closed, but or reopening. But before the pandemic, they were screened in cinemas. The series was screened as special screenings in cinemas, and that was a huge success in Poland. They're doing mostly 2D, and they are the only in Poland certified company for Toon Boom. So they're also doing some trainings on that. Letko is also a company that is doing a lot of co-productions. They are actually also partnering in some of them with Animoon that I started the presentation with. It's a company that is also mixing different techniques, but they have a lot of 2D animation, and they are doing pretty well with feature films, which is rare in Polish animation. In Polish animation, we have the majority of shorts and then series. There's not that many features being produced during the year, and they already had a few that including Jacob, Mimi, and the Talking Dogs that were screened this year, that they premiered this year with this film. They also did a project of series of Soul and Leaf, but they are now working on Odo, which is also a series. But they also are very open to cooperate on both features and short projects and any others. And I think they're very also good company to start co-production with, because they have already done a lot of co-productions. Pigeon Studio is also 2D company mostly. They are working not only as a studio doing their own projects, but they are also acting as executive producers for other producers, because they have pretty big team of animators, and a lot of them are also very talented directors. So they're working with their own projects like series and shorts, but they're also working with other studios. For example, Animoon, they produced the whole full season of their Hug Me series, so they have a lot of workload to handle normally, and they're a very good studio, not only for co-production, but also for services. Studio Trefl is the only studio that started as a fully privately funded studio in Poland. Trefl is company that is famous for their games and but board games and jigsaws, puzzles, and so they decided to start their own series, and they opened the studio and founded fully first series or two of their series by themselves as a private investment without any public funding. So that was very interesting for us, that a company that was not connected with film actually started investing in film. And right now they're growing as a studio, and they're also entering into different partnerships and starting new projects. So that's very interesting for us to see them grow, because we do hope that it will bring some more also some investment from other companies in Poland. So right now they are studio specializing in stop motion, because stop motion is also a technique that has a huge tradition in Poland, and therefore we have a lot of artists in stop motion, and they decided to start with this technique, and they're working with it, and they have a fully equipped studio for stop motion projects. Same actually is with the WG team. They have a different two brands, Likan and WG team, but if you see those two names, it's the same company. They're just trying to divide, doing one company for more commercial projects, one for more artistic projects, but it's the same company. and they are producing both very artistic films and some commercial or commissioned work, also focused on stop motion, different techniques of stop motion, but puppet animation is something that they are doing the most. Currently, they are producing a short of Izumi Yoshida that you can see frame from on the lower side. That's called The Bridge. It's a Polish-Japanese project in the story, but it's a Polish project in production, and the director is Polish-Japanese director. And then there is Lemon and Elderflower, that is a series, and they are now entering also into pre-production of this series in a month, I think. They will be shooting a teaser. It will be a preschool series, also in puppet animation, so with a very beautiful aesthetics. And then there is us, Momakin. We are not only a producer, we enter as a producer in co-productions, but also do production services, distribution, promotion, professional education, and organize Animarkt stop motion forum. And you can also meet with us on Annecy, at Annecy, at MIFA. We have our stand of Polish animation held by the Association of Polish Producers of Animation, so the SPPA, and you can find all the companies also, of course, there. And that's all for me. And now I can give the voice and sound back to Mrs. Karolina and Mr. Maciej.
Super awesome. Thank you very much. It's for the comprehensive overview. I think you've saturated the interest, at least the initial one, of our audience. I will turn the screen right now and the microphone to our guest speaker, who was almost at the risk of not coming in today, but he will be freestyling through his narrative right now. Being Maciej is the managing director at the Polish Producers Alliance, and also a specialist in copyright and creative industries, a lecturer at the Warsaw Film School as well. So I will turn the screen to Maciej, and he will give you the latest overview of actually what's happening at the Polish film industry since March.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Well, actually, I was running through my notes during this presentation of Katarzyna, because Karolina has asked me like a few days before, and I just wanted to do it, to present to you what is the effect of the COVID on the Polish film market. It is not as painful, although in the animation as in the rest, the influence on the rest of the market is much more painful. So just to give you an overview of the Polish film market in general, we produce around 50 full-length feature films. I mean, these are Polish films, and 150 non-fiction, so documentaries, animation, and shorts over the year. 61 million people go to cinemas, like 61 million admissions over the year. That's our score in cinemas. And there are like 490 cinemas in Poland with 1,360 screens. And the COVID actually stopped the whole market. This is, some say, the most significant disaster from the very beginning of the cinema, actually. So over 125 years we didn't met this kind of situation. Everything in Poland stopped on the March 15th, and actually now we are in the situation of the freezing. But as you probably assume as well, this is not as easy as we might think of. So the productions, the sets were enabled from May 18th, and the cinemas are maybe open from the last Saturday. So it's from the June the 6th in Poland. But actually, in terms of the production, there are a lot of challenges to be addressed. The first one is the costs and the necessity of the safety on the set. As it is counted by our producing managers that in average production, you need more. You need to spend more, around 70,000 Canadian dollars, in order to, and it lasts around 30 to 35 days of the shooting. For this, you need around 50 to 70,000 Canadian dollars more in order to make the set more safe. Katarzyna has managed already to present you some of the achievements that were done by the Polish Film Institute in terms of legislation, as well as in terms of the changes that were introduced to the operational programs, and I will not repeat it. Just to say to you about what is important to know. We have safety rules that were accepted by our sanitary services in Poland. Sanitary inspection. Thank you, Karolina. These are very detailed ones. A lot of producers do not like it, but they are thought of to be recommendations, they are not like obligatory provisions. For example, everyone has to wear masks, unless they are actors, of course, or unless it prevents them from performing their duties on the set. The number of the people on the set have to be lowered to the minimum. Actually, there are some kind of zones that are recommended to be introduced on the set. So you have to divide people by the type of engagement they have in the set as well. If you need any details on that, how to produce right now safely, you can write to Karolina or to me, and we will share with you this information. As I said, the cinemas are open, but actually the major chains of cinema have not opened so far, because they need some time for programmation, they need some time for marketing. So the government has announced that it's lately, so they are not ready. So only art house cinemas are open, and actually the first box office, which was for the last weekend, was not satisfactory at all. Only 4,000 people went to cinemas, but in Warsaw, where you have around 100 screens, only 5 cinemas were open. So it shows you that this process will be kind of difficult. What is interesting is that in terms of going to cinemas, that we have a campaign. We are coming back to cinemas, which is supported by Polish Film Institute. What is interesting is that as a positive result of the whole situation, the new platform was created by the platform Moje Kino, which is like my e-cinema, which is actually gathering the exact art house cinemas that are programming that are curating the programmation of this platform, and this enables them to keep contact with their audiences. They can also enrich the screenings with some of the repertoires of this, with the discussions, with introductions, with some comments by the critics. So it's kind of interesting, and it's very successful. It started end of May, and it has already its audience, and a lot of film festivals are actually thinking of placing themselves within the platform. What is interesting, then there is also the possibility to present the repertoire in terms of national cinemas. So you can there you can, for example, go through some Italian films, so if you think of like launching some Canadian repertoire in group, or to make some screenings, or get the people acquainted more with Canadian cinema, then there is a possibility, and it's good that it exists. What is important? Financial market has not responded properly in our case, so banks do not have like special offer for film industry yet. We are in constant negotiations with them. As you know, there is no insurance offer as well. We know that there are some talks with Lloyd's, but they are very reluctant actually all over the world. There are some COVID insurances in Poland, but they do not cover film sets. So we still have to make the insurance companies aware on the necessity to introduce them, and they have to also assess the risk within. So we are working on that. There were some financial projects as well introduced, helping the crews that were left without work during the COVID lockdown. Polish Film Institute have introduced the system of scholarships. Also, Polish Filmmakers Association, which is a CMO for the film industry, they have allowed the advances of royalties. And there is a Netflix project in Poland which helps the crews, and actually our association is within, so we are distributing Netflix's money. And if you had any questions about the situation in Poland, about the developments in the legislation, or in any kind of financial mechanism that is addressed to the COVID situation, or any other, feel free to ask via Karolina or via Katarzyna. We will share the information with you. And what should I say? Please feel invited to co-produce with the Polish producers. I know that there was a meeting organized by CMPA in Berlin. We were participating also in the organization, and the producers were, Polish producers at least, were very satisfied with it. There was to be the continuation in Cannes, but as we know, it's very difficult. So if you think of continuing any relationship that was set there, please contact us and we will help. Thank you very much.
Oh, back to me. Thank you, Maciej. Thank you, Katarzyna, very much for this. And I think this concludes. We already exceeded our time limit. Thank you very much for your attention and for your patience. I think, I trust it was a useful information for you, at least to get you interested. Feel free to get in touch with us. We will be at the events at both Annecy, MIFA, and Marché du Film in Cannes on virtual format as everybody else. And feel free to reach out to us if you would like to be in touch with specific companies or have some specific objectives for those events. Thank you again. I wish you all a great day, and thank you for your attention. We'll be sharing the link accordingly. Thank you very much.